Hello, one and all, and welcome back to League of Europe Season 7 for Division 2. This is the sixth round of the Division 2 Championship, coming to you from Silverstone. The British Grand Prix is getting underway very, very shortly, as we've had a little bit of lobby issues, which is why we are starting slightly later than usual tonight, but we should be fine to get going now. So, we're looking to load ourselves in, get racing underway. It is myself yet again taking you through proceedings tonight. Myself, Mr. Daka, as people like to call me, or as I myself like to call myself. Alongside me in the commentary box, the same man from last week, the same man from Season 3, Season 4, another Division 2 legend. It is Mr. QVR Verstappen. Verstappen, how are you doing, mate?
Hello everyone, and Elites. Welcome to Division 2 here. I'm doing well. Looking forward to this Britain Classic track. Of course, the first ever race in Formula 1 was hosted here, and we'll be going at it tonight here as well.
Yeah, that race won famously by Nino Farina way back in 1950. Things have changed quite a bit since then, it's fair to say, and we are going to be watching these virtual cars take on the virtual Silverstone track. Last week, of course, we had the famed Monaco Grand Prix, and it was exactly what you'd expect from the Monte Carlo race, it's fair to say, with only about 6 cars really having a clean run through the Grand Prix. A lot of incident. We shouldn't see quite as much here. Let's hope it is pristine weather for qualifying as we get into it. And just looking through the way things are standing in the championship right now, I won't run through the full thing, but one thing that just reflects how this season has gone, Verstappen, the man at the top of the standings, the top of the tree, at Mr. Ariel Carmentalist, the season is played out in such a way that he's leading the championship and he hasn't even won a race yet.
Yeah, it's incredible to see how close and how varying the grid is from week to week. And obviously in the long run, the consistent drivers will come out on top, and we'll have to see how they get on with things throughout the season. Yeah, Carmentalist is on top ahead of Gary and Timon, all covered by 6 points, so close one so far.
Yeah, certainly at this stage you can't really call anything right now. I think, as far as I'm aware, the championship lead after this race could be taken by any one of 7 drivers, so it's hard to really call how this championship is going to shake up just yet. We're going to look though to the present, qualifying, all 20 drivers looking to take on this circuit. First over the line will be the famed qualifying specialist QRT Timon, outside championship. He is third in the championship at the moment. Let's see how he runs through this lap. Start of the lap is Abbey, nice and flat out through that, and Farm first, braking zone at the track, and to Village, then get it stopped third gear. Try and open up that throttle as much as you can on the brakes, slightly heading into the loop. Traction is adamant heading out of here, because as you come through a train flat, now all the way down the Wellington Straight, then building up over 300 kilometers an hour onto the brakes, late past the 50-meter board for Brooklands, getting it nice and turned in. Swing it now into Lovefield. Try to be patient here all the way through, applying that throttle, feathering it, and then gunning it through the exit now, heading up through Woodcote and now up towards the famed Cops Corner, then one of the most iconic turns on the track, completely flat out, nearly flat out for Timon in qualifying trim, just trying to hold back just a little bit on this opening back run, then into another iconic section of track, the Maggots and Beckett's complex. He's a little bit offline heading through Beckett's, try and plant the throttle as early as you can to get the run out of Chapel Corner. Now onto the Hangar Straight. This is probably where you're going to see most overtaking throughout the race. Timon now approaching Stowe, flick it in, high speed, 5th gear, then early on the throttle, carry the speed. It's so important round here. Now set up for the Vale chicane, onto the brakes, use the curb to turn the car in, 3rd gear, now short shift to 4th for Timon, heading out of Club Corner now to the line, and QRT Timon will set the opening lap in the session on 1:26.7 at this early stage. One thing to note then is we'll see some of these other times coming in. You can expect at a track like Silverstone, the skill gap is very small around here, so you'd expect the times to be really close tonight.
Yeah, I definitely don't expect someone to absolutely be in front by 2 or 3 tenths. I think it'll be more like 2 or 3 hundredths, as Gary,
like that,
just about that, goes 3 hundredths quicker than Timon, and puts it on professional pole so far. To note as well, Nolan has a qualifying ban, that's why he is retired in the pits. As AJ Wuhan goes to 10th quicker than Gary.
Yeah, the time's just teetering down a little bit at this early point in the session, and so we'll see how that is going to evolve. But yeah, don't expect much of a field spread. That is for sure around here. AJ Wuhan, though, the Ferrari man, has put himself onto that top spot for the moment without a point for the season so far, having only missed 2 races, so he'll be looking certainly for more in terms of the standings coming later on. We'll look more further down. XL Hardy goes third. The former D2 title contender back in Season 4 puts himself just 5 thousandths of a second behind Gary. I think you can expect some of those close margins throughout the event. So let's see how things are going to keep on unfolding. Emily Creco, we know his qualifying specialty, goes second, and Timon with a second lap goes to the top then. And Silverstone's a track where I don't think you'd usually expect to see guys putting 2 laps on the tyres, but he goes to the front, and clearly having put 2 laps and also probably derating near the end of that lap, Timon, you have to say, showing a lot of early promise here around this circuit.
Yeah, he looks confident at this point in time. Yet 2 laps, although the tyre wear isn't too high, is not a common thing here due to the pit lane being long. Just going to cost you a lot of time. But if this is his strategy and he's found a way around it, well, fair play, and he's got it onto pole with just under a tenth of a second.
Yeah, strong lap early from Timon. Interesting, some of the medium laps. Slash has put in a particularly quick one, a 26.8. Only 3 tenths off pole, and from what we've been hearing, I think the tyre delta is around half a second, but certainly a lot more than 3 tenths. So TG Slash on his first lap. We always keep a half an hour on those medium times, and Slash, well, that is a particularly impressive lap to open his session.
Yeah, absolutely great lap from him. Let's see if he can put it on, keep it on going when he goes into the softs then. Jayco's on the lap at the moment. He's coming through so 5th gear, just rotating the car nicely in. Very clean looking so far. See if he can get close towards Slash's time on the mediums, as he is on as well. Short shift to 5th on the exit of the chicane, and across the line he goes. He is not really that near. He's on the 27.4 into P15.
Yeah, Jayco then, the start of the season in Division 3, dominated the opening races, now racing back in Division 2, the former champion way back in Season 1 in this division. Just 2 cars that are still in the session yet to set a time. Nathan JB, who's had a very encouraging start to his season, Emily Scream as well. Nolan, of course, qualifying ban, will not be setting a time in this session, has promised a chase cam run from the back, so let's see how that is going to unfold later on down the line. So that is the majority of the first runs over. I do think we saw one, that's Tibos going late to P8, and I did see someone going backwards. That was actually Jaco on an in lap, smacking up the front wing, and obviously he's going to try and navigate the car to the pits. Thankfully for him, is still in the session, but heading out of a corner like Luffield, probably the knock to the confidence that you wouldn't have really been after at this stage.
Yeah, there's traction zones around Luffield, the loop earlier in the lap as well, in turn 4, and towards the end of the lap, the last couple corners, the traction needs to be on point here to get good runs, and if you don't have the confidence, you're not going to be able to push and go for overtakes or hold someone behind.
Yeah, certainly. Another thing to really note here is that, well, you may think that this is an easy track to overtake, and in a one-on-one fight, it is quite easy to overtake, but one thing that this track is notorious for in league racing is DRS trains. I think you'll know this very well racing in Division 1, where the DRS trains are very prevalent at every track, but you have to say Silverstone is one of those tracks where you'll always see them popping up in a dry race.
Yeah, Silverstone is one of the biggest for it, and obviously there's not really any big braking zones, so there's not a lot of opportunities to make any proper moves. So the overtaking gets a lot more difficult sitting in a DRS train.
Yeah, certainly. I think you'll see a lot of the action between maybe people that are on alternate strategies, but more so just at the front of trains where you can use that DRS to your advantage, actually, and start making ground. We're now going to start to see some of the second runs in the session. QRT Timon, as we mentioned, on that provisional pole, but I'd say the most impressive lap from that opening run is indeed TTG Slash, and he's fitted some softs in the pit lane to go out on track, so we'll see what he can do, if he can maybe put it near the front. We'd imagine probably getting into the low 26s near the end of the session. Maybe someone can get very close to the 25s. We'll see as Zaudema on board with him and validates heading out of Copse Corner, so that's going to be the end of that lap. For the Red Bull driver, I think Gary was looking to give him the toe, but obviously they won't be gaining anything from that at this stage. Behind on the track is XL Larkin. He is navigating now his way through Copse Corner now. Keeps it nicely between the white lines. Very cautious then from XL Larkin. 0.3 of a second off his teammate on provisional pole position as it stands. Hasn't been an amazing start to the season for Larkin, the former champion, but certainly not a bad one either. He is 0.3 up though, and actually look at possibly displacing Timon up at the top of the timesheets then, flying it in to Stowe Corner. Keeps it in 6th gear actually. We see most drivers going down to 5th, and now setting up the final chicane then. Into the Vale then. Takes a little bit of red curb there over on the inside. A little bit of understeer through Club Corner. He keeps it planted though to the line. Is it pole position? Yes it is! XL Larkin to the top of the timesheets. 1:26.4 is the time for the Alfa Romeo man. So he goes in front of his teammate. It's an Alpha 1-2 at this stage. We'll see what the rest of the guys have in store for us then as we get into the middle phase of the session. But Larkin, someone we maybe wouldn't expect to be up at the top, showing around this track he's got some pace for us tonight.
Yeah, he's usually not the one to put it on pole necessarily. He's more of a race guy, but good pace so far shown by him. Ariel Furk across the line. He goes into 2nd. It's a good lap by the reserve driver for Aston Martin tonight.
Yeah, we've seen one appearance from him this season. That was back in Paul Ricard. No points for him on that occasion, but he does show a lot of promise in qualifying. You can see that evidently there. Behind RT Bumpier is 0.3 up on his time. Looking to the line, does he put himself up near the top? Yes, he does. He's P3 now. So the times are noticeably coming down. Emily Screed fractionally in front, 100th of a second from 3rd to 5th. Just those sorts of margins that you would expect in that portion of the field and around this circuit. More so, XL Gary to the line goes 3rd on a 1:26.526. Not a big improvement, but a big jump in possession, that is for sure. So Larkin at the moment on top, but we are now seeing those runs coming in. XL Hardy, he's known as a bit of a Silverstone specialist, I think, and he goes fastest then, a 26.3. So we are seeing those times come down. We're just over 6 minutes to go in the session, so this is going to get very, very interesting. Timon is slightly down on his time to the middle sector, but finds a whole heap of time in the last sector, and that is provisional pole again on the second runs for QRT Timon. But we're seeing as these times come down, stacking up, the margins are so close, and as it seems at Silverstone, a track where pace usually isn't very spread out, it's all going to come down to who executes that final run. Delivering under pressure is the key at the end of this session.
Yeah, I think a lot of these drivers do have the pace to put it on the pole position spots, but is it ever going to come out in the real session? You have to wonder. And for some drivers, they'll get it better done under pressure and some won't, and we'll have to see. But the times are going to be so close, as we can see already. The top two are covered by 12 thousandths at the moment. Not a lot of time, that is. Let's have a look. A Slash is 6 tenths up.
This could be absolutely massive. AJ Wuhan, by the way, completely over my eyes, goes fastest then, 1:26.3. So he saw a good first run and he's put together an even better second run. But what does Slash have to offer here? Heading out of Club Corner, could this be fastest? It's a massive marker thrown down. TTG Slash, a 1:26.1, goes fastest by 0.2 of a second, which for Silverstone is a gargantuan margin. So that is a drop of the hammer from TTG Slash, going fastest by some margin. And well, we saw the pace on the mediums, we've seen it demonstrated on the softs now. Wow, this man, can anyone stop him tonight in qualifying? Quality is so important here, and right now Slash look for any driver to overcome.
Just looking as well, Prime is on a good lap at the moment, 5 tenths up on a medium 27 flat, so he could be right up there. Let's have a look at 26.3,
yeah.
P3.
So he puts himself just 2 thousandths in front of QRT time, and track evolution does play a big role here because the times are so close, so you can jump yourself up in terms of possession. 4 minutes to go in the session, and we're looking towards those final runs now. Slash, though, on top. I'm just thinking back in Division 1, there was only a handful of drivers that dipped into the 125s. So we'll see if we could see a 125 from Slash, if he can continue to find pace like he's been doing all the way through. But that's a big bridge of time for anyone else to make it up. But again, like we've alluded to, it's all about delivering under that pressure. But you can see those margins. You've got 3rd down to 10th is only about a tenth and a half, really. So there isn't much in it at all. And now we're starting to see these guys now circulating on their outlaps, looking to set up the time. And I think we're going to see a frantic end to the session. I think Zourma is going to be first up potentially, but Verstappen, I can't wait for this. We've got 3 minutes to go, and I think the end of this session, knowing how important qualifying can be here, it's going to be electric. Everyone is going to gear up. Small margins will make huge differences here.
Yeah, the laps are going to be rapidly flying in, and see if anyone can beat that remarkable time by Slash so far. Zuurma is just starting his lap, as you said before, coming through Abbey and Farm, as everyone just heading out of the pits now. He comes into Village, goes quite deep, very deep actually. Is he going to keep on going with his lap? I would be surprised if so. Does look like he is going. Going for Aintree? No, he's backed off. So that's... He's going to have to go against Zuurma. Not a great start to his final run.
Yeah, but he does have plenty of time to get reset then. He just will have a slight disadvantage on tyres. He should have fueled enough, I imagine, to get another lap in. Zuurma, not known as a qualifying specialist necessarily, but he'll have been looking to try and get as high up as possible. Alternate strategy can be powerful as well. So that battle for P11 could also be an interesting one. Nathan JB is behind him, but he has had a torrid first section, only 0.3 of a second down on a lap time that is not very representative. His first sector on that lap before wasn't particularly slow by any means, but he's certainly on the back foot at this stage in the session. So a lot, I imagine, to be desired for traditionally one of the best qualifiers in the division. Of course, he sits 4th in the standings at this stage. Has been solid point scoring in every race. He has backed off though, so he will be looking to try and go again later on. Further up the track, just a couple of guys on outlaps. Really, that is the case for the majority of the field, but I do think we have a few guys on flying laps. Jekyll is on a flying lap, but I think further up the road is XL Larkin, and he's put in a solid first sector. We saw him going fastest briefly, and of course, just over a tenth, and he's looking at a position 2 on the road for the moment, so he's going to circulate, he's going to try and knock that time down. Just over 1 minute in this session now. Most of these guys will get over the line to kick a final run off. The times are going to come in thick and fast at this stage in the session. Larkin rocking that blue and yellow helmet then, respecting the current situation back in Ukraine. He is going to try and put down a great marker here though, flying and into still 5th gear this time, much more aggressive now, heading up towards the final chicane. How does he navigate it then? Hits the curve on the inside nicely, not too aggressive but certainly not too slow. Now to the line, where does he go? 6th at the moment, jumps to 2nd on 26.240. There's P2 for the moment for XL Larkin, showing a lot of quality pace here then. So just 25 seconds left. Jekyll, I mentioned, is behind. He is 7/10 up, and he ran a little bit wide, heading through Vale. Now where does he end up then? Coming to the line is XL Jekyll at 7th. Good lap. Puts himself within the top 10, but do you want to be in that position is the question I think that's going to be asked then. Just about everyone then. Prime will be last over the line to get laps kicked off. Let's see where these guys are going to go. Gary is first up. 10th of a second up. Goes 7th. 126.492. Behind, I think, is the Williams. Hardy spun it, heading out the last corner. Behind on the track is Zourma. Goes 13th. 26.7. Here comes the flurry of times to get the session all wrapped up now. Ariel Commensalist, the championship leader, not qualifying specialist though, crosses the line, goes 12th. 126.6 is the time for the moment then. Behind, it's the McLaren, it's Nathan JB on his second run through the track, goes 11th. Poor man's pole position, level on times with Scream, and 11th for the moment then. Improvement, that's from Berg. He goes 4th, 126.6. 1.312 at this stage. Watch the times here. AJ Wuhan remains in P3 behind Mercedes, crosses the line. Funky Check it, only 14th at the moment. Then we're now going to see those lap times flying in as we reach the end of the session. Scream only a marginal improvement. Creco is slightly down, heading through the first two sectors now. To the line is Emily Creco. He goes 14th, 126.6. Timing behind is just shy of the mark of TDG Slash, who goes even quicker. 126 flat. Is that going to be out of reach for the rest of this field? Prime was on a very good lap though. Further back, Jaco to the line. Marginally, not an improvement in at this stage. Calvin is just slightly up on his time. Crosses remains at 19th. So we've got Gary now who's backed off. Prime has decided to back off that lap as well. Goes to the pit lane. So it is Slash, who was really the man to beat from the start, who for Silverstone standards has taken a crushing pole position. 126 flat, nearly 0.2 of a second clear. Slash, quickest in every facet of qualifying then. The man who of course won back in Portugal, and yet again Verstappen, so far in qualifying, he was just head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, he's been an absolute remarkable lap once again. And I was going to say at the start of the session, I said there was not going to be a gap of 2 or 3 tenths, but Slash has got very close to that, I've got to say. Almost 2 tenths ahead of Timon, who's also done a good lap as well. Run you through the grid then. Slash and Paul ahead of Timon. And Larkin and AJ Wuhan are on the second row. Third row, look out for the Aston Martins with Ferg and Prime, both reserves as well. Hardy and Bompje are in 7th and 8th. Then Gary and Tibbles in the 5th row. And then for free tyres choice, we have Scream, J. Cole, Nathan JB and Carmentelis, championship leader from 14th. Knowing him, he'll be happy with that. Creco and Funky Chicken behind that. Then Zedema and Tinkan, Calvin and Nolan will round out the grid.
So that is it for qualifying, and again, we cannot stress how massive that gap is for TTG Slash, but one thing we have to note, you might be 0.2 of a lap quicker even in race trim, as we now look to get into it, loading into the race now. Pristine weather, surely no chance of rain. One thing we've got to mention though, if you're in P1, you can be as quick as you like. If the car behind can stay there for the first 2 laps, pulling away is a near impossibility unless the car behind makes a huge mistake.
Yeah, I think if Slash gets cleanly off the line, I think he'll try and get away, burn all his battery, and see if he can create a 1 second gap to get Timon or whoever is behind out of that DRS and create a gap and try and pull away as much as he can.
The start does favour the pole setter if you get away well, because it can tend to check up a little bit in that high-speed first corner. It's probably one of the more treacherous first corners on the calendar, so let's see how that's going to unfold. We now look towards the start of the formation lap, though. We'll get a look at the tyre choices outside of the top 10. Should be, of course, AWS is actually pretty spot on there. It should be a very easy one-stop then, tyre wear. Not particularly a problem here. We look at those tyre choices for Verstappen though. For the most part, mediums, you probably expect that. Alternate strategy, watch those guys near the end. And a few drivers further down the field looking to make those gains early.
I'm heavily intrigued by Zedema choosing the softs. Of course, the Haas boys, I'm kind of expecting that from them. They like to gain early and just go for pretty much a bold strategy. Zedema, I'm confused by. He usually likes that alternate strategy very much. I know you can take the mediums a very, very long time. I think quite easily the whole race. Can we see a very early pit stop from Zedema and try and gain positions?
Possibly a lap 1 stop or something along those lines. We will see how that's going to unfold. But yeah, keep half an eye on that. Tyre wear very, very low around this circuit. So maybe that's a strategy to look out for. Or they're just going to try and gain as much track position in that first stint as you can. But those first guys that are on those mediums, they can be ones to look out for. I know that you have some personal experience of that earlier on tonight, making that charge late on in the race. We'll see if any of those guys can replicate that. Safety cars can always play into it. We'll see, but in a straight up race, not too much is going on strategy wise necessarily. Of course, everyone inside the top 10 has opted for those soft tyres. Slash is leading them a round to the grid again. As we mentioned, it is those 2 Alfa Romeos tailing him, so we'll see what happens then they, I don't imagine, are going to try and fight too much, because that's how gaps can really open up. If the guys in second and third just start scrapping away, that could be Slash's opportunity if he gets off the line well. We will see, though, as we come round to the grid. Just before we get it back underway, though, hand it back over to you quickly. Who is your bet for this race after 26 laps of racing? Who will be the one to take the checkered flag at the head of the pack?
I think Slash will win this race. Ahead of Larkin, and I'm going to say Jaco.
You're predicting another charge to the field from Jaco. Let's see, and again going for the pole setter. We will see how that's going to unfold then. At the rear of the field, it is going to be actually Nathan JB who's going to be the last car to the grid. He looks to settle very soon. So it is Slash on that provisional pole. Timon right up alongside him. And the question is, who is going to get the run off the line? Who's going to be leading this early? 26 laps of one of the most iconic tracks in racing about to get underway for the British Grand Prix. So the grid is now settled. The lights are coming on for the British Grand Prix. We have 5 lights. And they're off the grid in Silverstone from the line at Slash. Gets away well. Opens up that gap immediately then. Timon trying to fend off. AJ Wood's away well. Inside of Larkin. Wheel to wheel. Heading through farm and out towards Village then. They all stack up on the brakes. So Slash holds on to the lead. Timon is wide through Village behind then. You can see them all filtering through. A bit of smoke being thrown up from lockups, but it looks like it's clean enough. Heading through the opening sector of the lap. Slash leads Timon. Larkin fending off AJ Woo. Had P3 and 4 at the moment then. They all fly down the Wellington Straight then. Couple of cars side by side in the background. Looks as though it's fairly clean though. We saw Hardy defending from Prime there, sandwiched in between the two. Aston Martin's at that phase on the track. All these soft starters have managed to remain in those top 10 positions then as we've cut further up the grid. Gary has got to run on Bubye heading towards Copse, looks inside then. This is a brave attempt from Gary, the Monaco winner. Wheel to wheel into Copse. Can he get it done on the inside? Yes he can. He forces Bubye wide. The Ferrari eventually just has to tuck in and let it go. So Gary to P8 then. Bold move from the Irishman, goes up early, but it is Slash who leads. Hasn't been able to establish that gap though. Hardy, as we mentioned, is attacking in the midst of that Aston Martin battle, but Slash got away well. Looks to be very clean. They're all scrapping away, but at the moment then no major gaps opening at this stage.
Zenoma's going down the inside of Creco. He got to make that move down into Stodo. Looking down the field, Nathan JB runs into the back of Carmentelis just up ahead. He might get damage from that, I'm not too sure. A Slash has the fastest lap of the race and he still leads.
Nothing visible on Nathan's car, but he has got pressure from Creco, who's going to cruise down the inside into Abbey. Takes 14th away, and he has understeering. He's got damage. 100% the McLaren runs off the road now, rejoins, but at the rear of the field. So disaster for one of our cars, and also a gap opening up there. Creco to Carmentelis, just over 1 second. The rest of the field is intact. Slash has burned a decent amount of battery, but not actually as much as Timon, so he doesn't look to be banking on pulling away. He looks to be content to settle in for the long haul at this early stage in the race. He leads Timon. Larkin top 3 at this stage in the British Grand Prix. Overtaking is going to be very difficult further down that train as they all build up. The rear wings will open on the next lap, but I think the major development with Nathan, of course, you mentioned him running into Carmentelis. That gap has opened up. Creco is at the head of that, and I think if you're Creco, would you let these guys through? You know Zenoma's going to be quick, you know the other soft runners are going to be quick. Surely if you're Creco, you've got to let him through and bank on him closing that gap up towards Carmentelis and co.
Yeah, I think that would be the smartest decision from Creco. Let's see if he does that. Sediment does burn his ERS. Doesn't seem to have a lot of straight line speed, but does get by. I think as we see some fighting, close fighting going up ahead. Scream looking down the inside of Tibbleton. Jaco is now looking as well for a move down into the field chicane. He's not making that one stick.
Let that contact between the two of them there. Jaco slightly into the back of Scream. Doesn't look like any major damage. Zenoma through on Creco. Nathan JB predictably. Nolan behind is attacking Creco as well. Goes inside into Abbey. They touch on the way in and round. Almost goes Nolan. He saves it just about heading in to farm. But he's lost some time then and now being demoted then. So he will not be happy with that. Coming together with Emily Creco then at the start of the third lap. A lot of work to do now for Mr. Nolan. He's got some ground to make up then. 1.3 up the road in front then. Tin Can up the road is setting up. Kariko is dropping back. Inside goes Tin Can then. Runs it in deep. And it's another Haas round. Tin Can spins. Heading through Brooklyn's then. Kariko left him the space. I think Tin Can was just a bit too hot. And round goes the Haas then. Disaster for both the Haas on this lap. They tried to make ground early on those softs, but it is not going to plan for the moment. And the gaps are opening up. Zernema trying to work his way back up towards the medium runners. The medium now, alternate strategy guys that are still up here. Scream, Jaco, Carmentalist, those guys are pretty much isolated. Scream is massively offline though, heading through Beckett's, and now Jaco is up alongside and looking to go through the Mercedes. Gets alongside the AlphaTauri, looks to draw clear, but can he stick with the soft train in front? Jaco to P11, Emily Scream down to P12, Carmentalist looking behind at P13, and they all start to bunch up near the front. No changes of possession, but everyone is watching. AJ Wuhan, huge moment out of Club Corner, holds on to it. Fergner looking at him, sets the fastest lap, the Aston Martin. So it's frantic stuff early on near the front. AJ Wuhan's car looks really nervous though at the rear. Ferg's going to look to take advantage of that. Inside into Village from far back. Can he get it stopped and turned in? Yes, he can. But AJ Wuhan holds on for the moment then. Ferg trying to switch back underneath. Get a good run off Aintree onto the Wellington straight. AJ Wuhan has just a little bit in hand though in the Ferrari, but the gap is opening to the top three. Could a break be re-emerging here? Because AJ Wuhan, he looks to have spun up the tyres, and the rear end of that Ferrari, as I said, looks very nervous, and this could be an opportunity for those top three to get away.
Could definitely be if they do start fighting more, but AJ Wuhan is getting back and draining his ERS to get back into the safe window of those top three. For now, we still have a 14 car train at the front. Of course, the guys in behind's got just a bit cut loose from all the action with Nathan JB, and then later on with the Haas's as well, just going into hot a few times. Just all filtering through for now. Timon is looking towards the back of Slash. Is he going to make an overtake? He's going to look towards the outside, the inside, but he has turned off his DRS and just filters in through behind.
Yeah, you'll see these guys playing the long game here at Silverstone. Certainly no one's going to want to go too aggressive too early. Further down the field, Funky Chicken makes a move on. Kariko goes to the front of what you can call the second medium train. These guys that are just a little bit detached from the front of the field at the moment. 15th, 16th and 17th at this stage. Everyone else is comfortably within range. Zernema has managed to pull himself back, but low on battery. Not will he, but Morgan is Hardy's round and out the race. XL Hardy's gone off out of Abbey, and so he's out of the Grand Prix. XL Hardy, who looked so promising pace-wise in qualifying, now out of this Grand Prix. So he's dropped it on the exit of Abbey then. So unlucky for XL Hardy. As always, it seems just can't get a race that goes his way. Doesn't look as though it's going to change much in terms of safety cars or anything. Doesn't look like anything is going to come out. His car has now been removed. So no real lifeline for people like Nathan JB, who are a long way back. Kariko and Calvin are fighting, heading through Luffield. Kariko will hang on to that place, but Calvin is looking at him. Then Nathan JB, fastest lap, will serve as something. But when you're at the back of the field, and we know that the safety cars have traditionally been turned down a bit by Codemasters, we see that now then. Nathan JB isolated at the back, Hardy going out, no safety car. We'll be going for those guys that are separated, but in terms of the guys at the front, pretty much status quo remains. Slash leads Timon. Timon up behind him, looks to the inside, but has no interest in taking that lead.
Yeah, you'll see that's going on for the next couple of laps, I reckon, until we get towards the pit stops where we might try and see people starting the gap. Jacob's looking towards the outside of Tibbles here. He is looking to be on the move. He looks very comfortable to push at the moment, as he almost got 8, 9, 10's gap to Scream. Just had to hold back a little bit there on the exit of the chicane, as Nolan has gone into the pits. He is trying to undercut.
Yeah, I think that he has to try and do something different. You mentioned, of course, pitting very early. Looks like he's going to go for that long stint, try and get back in this race. It's I imagine, a smart enough call for him to make at this stage. You mentioned Jaco. He does look very confident, and he's burning quite a bit of battery. He looks interested in trying to get through on Tibbles. Of course, his game, you'd imagine, is later on in the race, but any positions he can gain now will not hurt. Of course, he's got to watch, though, as Tibbles is teetering, not on the edge of DRS, but he is certainly a bit more far back than he would have liked, I think, at this stage. But Jaco looking very encouraging pace-wise. Scream is struggling to match this. Out of all the medium runners, Jaco looks by far the most comfortable, and you have to say, with great prospects going forward.
Yeah, that does look very promising for the Mercedes here. Already looking at the soft run is trying to overtake them is definitely a good sign to the start of the race.
So he sets behind Tebos, won't be near enough. I don't think there's
Ooh.
yellows for the back. Then it's Calvin that's gone off, heading out of Beckett's, and Timon actually goes to the lead. So he is going to try and fight that, and Slash goes to the pit lane. So this is interesting then. Slash is in, and he looks to be pretty much alone in that regard. And of course his teammate Tebos stays out, so everyone else has stayed out. Slash, who was leading for pretty much the entire time, had just lost that lead, now dives to the pit lane. I don't think it's a worry on tyre wear, but that's a very interesting call from the Williams.
Meanwhile, Tin Can follows in as well on the mediums, and Calvin's in as well as he retires in the pits. Not what we like to see, unfortunately. Yeah, Slash is going to try and push away now, and I think Timon, if we're going to have a look there, he's going to try and do the same. He's going to try and counter Slash and prevent him from getting away completely out of DRS, which is a real opportunity if you do not have a good in-lap whatsoever. See if he counts it right away or he waits a couple laps. That's really interesting thing to see.
He has just started using a lot of battery, which makes me think he's trying to counter that undercut. So Slash now out of the pit lane, of course completely clear air. He's going to try and push his way forward. But that is probably earlier than the optimal lap in terms of outright race pace. But it does open things up then, and these soft guys will want to, I imagine, react and make sure they don't get detached. So we could see probably quite a busy pit lane at the end of this lap, but there's quite a lot of teammates in that train that are going to have to stay out just a little bit longer. So Timon leads. He has used a lot of battery. I think it's fairly certain that he's going to come in at the end of this lap, and yes, he does dive into the pit lane. So he goes. Of course, Larkin has to stay out, cannot follow him. AJ Wuhan, we'll see what the pit lanes. Prime goes in, penalty on the entry. Tebos as well, so 2 speeding penalties straight away. That is not what you want to do then. Essentially just throwing away race time, especially at a track where races tend to be so close. So those 4 in, 2 of them with penalties. And how good was the outlap from Slash is going to be the question. He's used quite a lot of battery, he's pushing. Timon will try and get out there. Of course, it is a slow pit lane, we'll see. He, I imagine, will not be too interested in being in front of Slash. He'll just want to still be in range. He'll have fresher tyres, but he will still have to work. So let's see where this is going to emerge now. Slash, powering down the main straight, 300 kilometers an hour. He's going to jump them. Is he going to jump them by enough, though? Timon is coming out now. Looks like gap is more than big enough for Slash. Slash is putting a storming outlap. And Timon now is really under pressure. He's got 1.3 to make up. He does not have that DRS. He does have more battery to use. He can try and push straight away, but Slash has pulled a great strategy there. The question is, can Timon work his way back in?
I reckon he can. I don't think Slash will try and absolutely push to keep Timon out, and Timon will obviously try and push to keep that DRS, which is so important around this track. So I think we could see him back in the DRS very soon. Meanwhile, AJ Wuhan is looking at the back of Larkin, goes down the inside, and I don't think there'll be any move from Larkin against AJ Wuhan, and I think both might pit here. Yes, they will.
Yeah, of course, they'll be watching not to run into the back of each other then. Ferg stays out in the second Aston Martin. Boumpier has followed him, of course, no choice, as his teammate comes in front of him. So we'll see what those guys emerge then. Slash has held timing on this lap. We saw Slash's immense pace in qualifying. They've both used quite a lot of battery at the moment then, and actually this is beginning to split things up then. Prime is having to work to stay with timing. There is a gap to Gary, of course. There will be cars to fill that, you'd imagine. AJ Wuhan and Larkin, but will they be in range? We've seen that undercut is actually surprisingly powerful here. So how's this going to work out? Slash maintaining that place in front, and Timon is having to use a lot of battery here. He's nearly within that range. If he can get DRS, he will be fine. He's going to be out in front of AJ Wuhan. AJ Wuhan is actually right behind Timon, so he's putting a really good end lap. We saw that move on Larkin. Prime is just in front of Larkin, and Gary, critically, is not in this. So XL Gary, that gap has just opened up. Ferg and Boumpier, you'd imagine, will look to try and fill that, but they're staying out. The softs will be dropping. Timon is just about within DRS, but you'd imagine with such difference in the pit laps, could we see potentially some gaps starting to open up at this stage? Tebos is now throwing Gary into Brooklands, get the move done, but ultimately, the more these guys battle, the more and more chance they're going to get broken off this train for good.
Yeah, Gary just doesn't seem to have the ultimate pace at the moment. I imagine Ferg will fall into the gap of Larkin and Tebos. Boumpier will be... I don't know where he'll be. I think he'll be closer to Gary more than anything. Meanwhile, Kriko just chicken fruit, so as Ferg Zodema as well are in.
Yeah, so you can see as well, so Zodema makes it pretty much all of the soft runners in. Ferg and Bumpier, it's going to be really interesting to see where they emerge. So Slash has been caught. Timon pushed himself to the point of derating, but he did manage to get himself back in, and so now we've got a scrap up the front. Slash has a lot more battery. I think Timon is going to play the patient game here and just sit there and wait. He does use a bit of battery there. He's obviously got to make sure he doesn't get dropped again, but I imagine with how powerful DRS is, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Let's see where Ferg is going to emerge here. He comes out. He's behind Larkin. Where is he relative to Tebos then? He nips out just in front then. Gary and Bumpier side by siding it into Village, then the Ferrari on the inside of the Red Bull then, and round he goes! Bumpier side by side with Gary, must have clipped the car on the inside. I don't think they touched, but Bumpier round re-emerges, tries to recover it in general, but he is now completely dropped. He's behind Zodema even, who of course was started on those soft tires right at the back of the field. So disaster there for Bumpier. He'll try and get himself back in, but he has been broken off that for good. Gaps have threatened to open, and I say that Tebos is now the one who's having to work. Slash, how impressive is his pace going to be? I don't think they're going to be going too quickly at this stage, because they're trying to recover battery at the front, so Tebos should be able to get back in. I think though, despite all the threats, it looks as though Verstappen, this train, might just about survive the round of pit stops.
I think it will, and due to Timon's low ERS, AJ Wuhan is seeing that, of course, with the red flashing light, and he is going down the inside and trying to get that net P2 off of the Alfa Romeo. Can he succeed in doing that? Holds side by side, a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Can Timon keep it down the inside? No, AJ Wuhan gets ahead and completes the move completely now into the field chicane.
Yeah, he does get the move done then on time, and of course second place is a great position to be in at this track then. P3 a lot weaker. Timon is going to try and apply pressure from that position, and just like AJ Wuhan did to him, but he's very low on battery. So is AJ Wuhan. He used a lot to get that move done. He's running very low as well. So could these guys potentially be exposed then? Prime is behind with much more battery, and he's pretty close if he can get a good exit here. I think Timon might just about have enough in hand, but we will see now. He isn't using the battery frame. I don't think he's interested really in getting the move done. But one thing I want to note as well, I thought that Tebos would be able to work his way back in, but this lap has been rough for him. He's dropping to nearly 2 seconds back, slipping back all the time. So I said that this train might as well survive, but it looks as though Tebos and Gary, partly assisted by those guys that stayed out even longer, people like Ferg, they've tried to work their way back in, but Tebos looks as though more and more likely, I think he's made an error, and 1.9 seconds looks a lot less optimistic of getting himself towards that leading fight.
I'd be very surprised if he manages to crawl his way back indeed. As he, the power of DRS is just enormous here, and I think just with a lap without it, it's completely ruined his chance of getting in the DRS throwing up ahead of Fergus. AJ Wuhan looked to the inside, I think, of Slash, but didn't get through.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because we saw Timon, typically, as Bumpier on his recovery manages to get past Zodema, 14th now, ahead of the 15th place Red Bull then at this point on the track. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what AJ Wuhan's approach. We saw Timon being very cautious and just saving up for later, as AJ Wuhan, who got pretty close then, going to be a bit more aggressive. He is still got the Alfa Romeo right up behind him. Slash's race pace, I think, is very, very strong still. And so it's going to be tough for these guys to really mount much of a challenge while still saving up that battery, which I think is going to be their main goal at this stage. Prime, though, is not focused on that at all. He's got a bit of a run on time, and in fact, but I think he is just going to bail out of that last minute. He looks inside, but no, will not go for the move. If he maybe burned that battery all the way down, he could have got through, but he elects to back out of it. So I think these guys, their priority is preserving that train rather than trying to pick up track position. I think that's going to come later on in the race, as we've still got our top 5 medium runners out there. Jekyll, Screaming Car Mentalist, they're still a unit out there. Jekyll, I think, is setting a very good pace for these guys to follow, but he is low. They will pit eventually for softs, I imagine, and try and get themselves back in, or could get a well-timed safety car. We will see. AJ Wuhan looks content, saving up that battery, but I think the general strategy for these guys, they're not trying to get in front of each other, they just want to try and stay with the leaders come the end.
Yeah, and hopefully try and save up that battery, as you said. And even if you still are in clean air, you can still save up the battery. Is why Slash is now on about 35 to 40%. He was lower earlier on. So I think they'll try and save up as much as they can, and maybe prevent the ultra runners of Jekyll, Scream, and Mentalist when they come on later. they have something left to defend with.
Yeah, but right now, of course, this battery saving is going to allow those guys to be a lot closer to them when they come out of the pits. So that's going to be one thing to look out for. It will still be a decent gap. They'll probably come out around Bumpy area, I'd imagine, right now. So there's a lot of ground to make up, but we'll see what they can do. Prime has got another good run on timing. Does he look to the inside? He looks again, fainting, but he doesn't get through. He's still looking very good on battery. He's just toying with that move slightly. Slash is wide up in front, but AJ Wuhan, of course, not able to get underneath him at this stage. Those guys have all managed to save up a good amount of battery. Everyone is looking pretty good in that regard in this train. Of course, though, we have to mention Prime with that 5-second penalty to his name. No track extending penalties at the moment. They've all managed to keep it clean in that regard. So I imagine this is how the status quo is going to be for a little while. AJ Wuhan, who is the lowest on battery, also probably the most likely to make an overtake, but it looks like he's also content to just sit behind Slash at this stage, or is he? He closes in again. Is he going to go inside? Yes, so AJ Wuhan going on the offensive, goes inside, goes through to P6 and a net race lead. Slash is not going to look to fight back, and AJ Wuhan goes to the lead. But given that you have to typically use more battery when you're in front, and he was already low, he does grab that front position, but is that advantageous for the Ferrari man?
I don't know, it's a very odd call to make if you don't have a lot of areas to go through. You can just see how good Slash is on race trim as well. He could just sit 2 tenths essentially behind Adrian throughout the entire lap, which is incredible.
He looks to be in complete control of the race, but of course it can all change. Timon, you'd imagine, is going to try and apply some pressure from there, but he's having to look, because Prime, he seems to have a really quick car in a straight line, and he is looking at his rear wing. Of course, not able to launch anything, not really willing to launch anything, but that threat is always there if he lets his guard drop. So we'll see how that's going to unfold, and they all run very close, and the gap to the cars in front isn't really coming down at all. So you have to say these guys are, again, prioritising that battery build-up and not really pushing. So the likes of Jekyll, Scream, Carmental, it's going to be interesting to see where they emerge. It should be a few more laps before we will see them in. As I say that, Jekyll goes straight in, makes me completely eat my words. So Jekyll, in relatively early, I think the softs will make the end, but he's gone in early, and I think he's trying to avoid potentially that gap to the leading train will be getting too big. But this is going to be our real first indicator as to where those alt-strap runners run. Where is Jekyll going to emerge, and what kind of a prospect is he going to have from his position? He's going to be some way behind, but those softs are going to give him some great pace.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he emerges. I think he'll be around a second ahead of Sadama, roughly. So have a look if that is about right. Be advantageous for him, because he's got Gary and Tibbles ahead of him and can probably get through quite easily. And yes, he is. He's right ahead of Sadama. Yeah, 2 cars less to dispose. Obviously, he jumped Sadama and Bumpy, or essentially he was already ahead of Sadama, but he's got ahead of him, and now he can chase after Gary and Tibbles.
There isn't much of a gap to the leading train, so we will see Gary has taken over from Tibbles, and he looks to be burning. So this is a sort of relay of sorts, if you will, between these guys. Gary now burning a lot of that battery, trying to get the gap down. It's hovering at around 2 seconds. Tibbles is trying to stay with him, trying to save the battery as well, to try and take over from Gary. You can see how close those guys at the front are running at this stage. Then Prime is so close to the rear wing of the car in front. Carmentalist, by the way, has gone past Scream for the lead and immediately dives to the pit lane. So does Scream. So those guys both going to come in. They both get it stopped nicely. You'd imagine they'll probably come out very close to Zaunima. So that's going to be one to look out for at this point in the race. So they're all very tight at the front. Slash is actually going to go back to the race lead there. It's a Slash leads now from AJ Wuhan. So these guys swapping a bit. He gets a bit of shape through Stowe, but he will in the end hold on to P5. We're about to become P3 as the last two, well, not the last two medium starters, but the last two medium starters that are in contention. Without a safety car, Kriko and Funky Chicken could definitely still pull their way back in if there's a safety car, but those guys emerging on softs now. We'll see where they come out there. Slash is pushing now, and are we seeing potentially an attempt from Slash to get out of DRS? It's going to be so difficult, but I think that was the inspiration behind that lead. But he's only about 40%. If he wanted to get away, I think he could have saved up a bit more.
Yeah, well, Carmentalist has entered in front of Sadama, but Scream is behind both of them, both Sadama and Bumpy, so he is definitely disadvantaged, and he'll have to try and get through these two guys very quickly to get any chance of a good result.
Yeah, it's quite confusing to me actually that gap is actually opened up between those two drivers. Carmentos has some room to push up towards Jaco. Jaco is now beginning to get held back. Tebos is the difficult one. You'd imagine Gary. Jaco picks up a penalty on the inside of Kops, and that is going to hurt him no end and really hold back his charge through the field. He is up behind Tebos. He needs now desperately to make some ground early. Tebos, you'd imagine, he is using some battery as he's entitled to do so. This is a fight for position. They run parallel down the hangar straight and they're closing up to Gary rapidly. Jaco's going to go outside the two cars. Two wheels on the grass, trying to get around him. Tebos defends somehow, gets himself inside. Wow, that was one of the most cinematic moments I think we've seen on track. Jaco trying to pull off a spectacular double overtake. He gets one. Tebos gets two on Gary. Now he's going to pull these guys along then from the lead. It is Kriko and Funky Chicken is the man left out there. 14 seconds to the good at the head of the race. Jekyll now looking at Tebos. You'd imagine with battery he should be able to get through fairly easily. DRS on the next straight. Slash's attempt to getting through hasn't worked. Ferg has gone inside. Out of entry on Larkin. Snatches up P6 on the track. Then is Larkin going to try and fight back into Brooklyn's. Looks inside. Will not commit to the move though. He has a little look but won't quite get through. Jekyll now to P8 on the track. That penalty is going to really hurt and hang you over his head like a cloud, but he does get himself into P8. Now looking to try and move himself up. So Fair gaining track position on Larkin, now up behind Prime. The rest of them sit nice and comfortably. It's a train of 6 for the lead. Jaco trying to chase him down, but that penalty is disastrous for him. Now Jaco, you suspect a podium is pretty much off the cards for the Mercedes man now.
It'd be very difficult for him to get that indeed. And this opens the door for Carmentless as well, because he's got a lot more battery than Jaco. He's going to have a go at Gary. I think Gary will try and defend towards the inside. Can Carmentless go and make it work around the outside? Goes very deep into the corner. Can he make this work? Still side by side, bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. They go down into the field chicane. Can Carmentless make this one stick? Still side by side. Great action between the two. And they go now through the final corner, and I think Carmentless got this one stick. Yes, he has. Good move and good action by the two of them.
I think they are the two best wheel-to-wheel drivers in the league in terms of entertainment. It's always fireworks between those two. Wheel banging in all. Ferg and Prime, the two Aston Martins banging wheels again, heading out of the loop, and now they're side by side. So Ferg trying to pick up another spot here, and he's cruising around the outside. Ferg, decisive action, moves up 2 spots at 2 laps. Now runs 5th, and he has got a zeroing in on that net podium spots then. But Carmentless, great fight again with Gary, and he's now up behind Tebos. Jekyll, is catching that leading train rapidly. As it seems to be, Carmentless with pretty much no qualifying pace. The doors just keep opening for this man in the race. He's possibly the best overtaker in the league, and now he is proving that in full force then, looking to try and get himself possibly onto the top 5. We'll see how this is going to unfold then, where now you'd imagine pretty much in the end game in terms of this race. Funky Chicken, they can still keep going. I imagine he's backing on a safety car. No, he actually does die to the pit lane now, so that's going to end things. Larkin trying to get to Prime now, inside into Stowe, gets the move done on the entry, and Prime loses a couple of spots on this lap. He's trying to fight back to Larkin. He looks inside into Vale, will not see the move through though. And so they all run through in tandem. AJ Wuhan, a few laps ago, by the way, did snap the lead from Slash. Just as Carmentos was making the move on Gary, he now runs up behind Tebos, being dragged along nicely by Jaco, actually. Funky Chicken will emerge some way behind this. Just look at Slash though, he sits so near to the rear wing of AJ Wuhan then, looking to control this race, but of course it is not over yet. Time and sitting patiently in 3rd at the moment then, looking to try and create something then. These guys are all looking decent on battery, but not amazing. Prime is trying to get back to Larkin towards Brooklyn's, feints inside, breaks very late into Brooklyn's, won't of course make a move from that position, remains in P6 on the track for the moment. Jaco behind 7, Tebos behind in 8th. Carmentless now beginning to get held back just a little bit. His big oversteer of Luffield holds onto the car just about, but he now runs in that spot. Jekyll is pulling these guys back as he got yellows down there at Brooklyn. I think that's Bumpy around. Bumpy in the Ferrari recovers the car. He'll have spun up those tires, of course, and a race that looked really promising for the Ferrari man now slips back, and he is some way out of the points. Right now though, we're building up to this train. Jaco has done a great job here of working these guys back in, but Tebos has been dropped from his DRS, so now AI does actually manage to just about keep on to it for this lap, which is going to frustrate Carmentalist. Carmentalist is not going to get that move done just yet. He has to wait in behind Tebos. Of course, the 3 cars in front of him have penalties. His targets are those top 5, but they're some way up the track at the moment. But Jaco, that pace on the softs, his penalty is setting back, but he's changing the context of this race as Prime picks up another penalty, now 8 seconds for him in the race. But Jaco's pace has now really dragged a lot more contenders into this fight.
Yeah, it's all bunching up. There's going to be almost a 12-car train if Scream and Zydema can get to the front of them as well. Scarmental is down the inside the village, gets the move done on Tibbles, does he? And I think he'll have the DRS as well coming up towards Brooklyn. Does he make the move after the detection point? Yes, he does. So he is going to be benefiting massively of that.
Yeah, Carmentalist then, the opportunist himself, moves through P8 on the track, P6 on penalties as it stands right now. So Carmentalist looking like another great recovery drive. Gary behind him on the track. Again, we don't know. It's Prime further up the road. As looking at Larkin then, inside will not get through. Prime, we saw him lose those few places in a couple of laps. He's attacking now outside of Maggot. Surely will not come to fruition. Look at them all stack up behind AJ Wuhan though. Slash offline, and through goes Timon. That's a critical mistake for Slash, and Ferg has run into him. Ferg off the track now, and things have really opened up. Prime is wheel to wheel with Slash. One mistake has set off an almost perfect drive. Slash down to P4. Ferg heartbreakingly drops way down the field. Jacob's made a move on Larkin as well. So things have really opened up now. Ferg has dropped back. Slash has lost places. He looked so in control of the race. That's how quickly it can change. Prime in third with a penalty, and all of a sudden AJ Woodard and Timon looks to be almost isolated. Larkin is well damaged. Carmentalist will go inside, makes contact into Abby, he gets a penalty. Carmentalist a penalty himself. That helps Jaco out. It helps the entire train out in front then, who look to try and fend off Carmentalist. A penalty to his name now. That's going to help Gary in terms of the championship. Larkin in front of him with a penalty. There was contact that set Carmentalist off, so maybe he can get that removed, I'm not sure. But things have dramatically changed now with Prime in third with a penalty. All of a sudden AJ Wuhan and Timon look locked on in those top 2.
Definitely does look like that as Gary gets through on Larkin as well, yeah. I don't see any visible damage on Larkin, maybe he's going so slow for the final couple of corners that I'm almost sure that he does have some sort of damage. Can't be any different. But yeah, Timon and AJ Wuhan look like the main contenders at the moment. Something crazy must happen for them not to finish in first and second.
Yeah, certainly. So that is how things run on the track at the moment. AJ Wuhan without a point in the season, full-time Ferrari driver, now has Timon all over him. Timon is an experienced customer. He's won races before in the division. He's won races this season. Third in the championship. Looks to gain solid points then. Zaunua further back moves to on Larkin, and so does Scream then on the softs. All of a sudden he looks like, after shadowing Carmentalist and Jaco the entire race, he might actually look the most promising out of the soft runners. Larkin, of course, goes to the pit lane, so the race is not played out to his favour at all. They all start to bunch up near the front. Maybe some of the soft runners can throw things wide open a little bit more then. Jaco is behind Slash. We'll look to try and get through. Slash is still on for a podium, but certainly not the step of the podium that he would have been after. It could all change though, depending on what happens with the front guys. AJ Wuhan leads Timon. Timon though is setting him up. AJ Wuhan is low on battery, so at the moment Timon looks to be in an advantageous position. If I'm AJ Wuhan, maybe it's to my advantage to slow the pace down a little bit. Timon isn't interested in getting through, and just try and save up that battery as best you can, because Timon is going to wait as long as possible before he makes this move.
Yeah, and one thing to mention as well, Prime obviously has the penalties, but he is still here on track. He's been looking to be willing to make moves, as he did on Larkin earlier. Is he going to play a role in this as well?
That is certainly a very good point. Then Timon can't hold back too much, especially if AJ Wuhan starts slowing it down. He has just slowed back a little bit, heading out of it. But you can see Timon is lifting near the end of the straight, and you can see the closing speed that Prime has. Timon is going to have to play this so carefully. He doesn't want to hold back too much because Prime is all over him. He feints to the inside, does Timon, and then he is trying to make sure that all angles are covered from the Aston Martin, who begins to swarm all over him. So let's see how this is going to unfold then. Timon might actually be forced into making this move earlier than he would have wanted. Tin Can, a penalty further down the field. He is out of the points at this stage in the race, and not been the race he was after at this stage. Still very close together. You never know. Jaco could try and have his hand in that. Looks like the softs just aren't quite as good at this stage. What does Timon do? He uses a little bit of battery heading off of entry. Closes up down the Wellington straight. Lefts, and that gap to Prime closes up. He can do that as much as he wants. He can try and stay behind, but if he does that too much and Prime is close enough, all of a sudden his attempt to control the race could be looking at Aston Martin on his inside heading into Stowe. So Timon in control, but he's got to be careful here.
He definitely has to be, and this is also allowing the slow pace for AJ Wuhan to save up some ERS as well, which he will definitely need towards the final couple laps of the race.
Yeah, certainly. The gaps are fairly small here. Prime is pretty close to Timon. I think Timon may be forced into taking the lead here. Let's see. Because AJ Wuhan now is, Timon is going to go through. Yeah. So he has been forced into that. And Prime's going to try and follow through outside of AJ Wuhan. But AJ Wuhan late on the brakes and to still hold on to P2. But it's not over yet. Prime is looking at his rear wing. Does not go through though. And AJ Wuhan now demoted to P2. Now, is he going to get forced into retaking that lead early? Let's see. He's not got a great exit heading off of Club. And Prime, we saw how willing he is to make those moves. He looks almost inside to Abbey, of course. Cannot get up and alongside and is not willing to go for that move at this stage. But yeah, Prime has really thrown a spanner into the works in terms of this leading fight. Of course, 8 seconds of penalties. You'd expect him to slip quite far down the order. Someone like Gary might actually be on for a really great result here, as Carmentalist is actually holding these guys back. His pace has dropped off. Prime is going inside of AJ Wuhan. This is so crucial. Prime on the inside. He's going to run AJ Wuhan out wide. AJ Wuhan must hold on to this if he wants a chance of winning the race. He keeps it on the inside. Better wheel-to-wheel contact between them, but Prime is around the outside. Oh my word. Emily Prime again throws the spanner in the works. Now here's P2 on the track. Nothing is held back, no holds barred, and now he runs second, and AJ Wuhan's disconnected issues now. He's lagging back and forth, and this is putting off Slash. Slash gets a penalty, and I think that may have been put off. AJ Wuhan's car has just gone off the road for me. I'm not sure. I think he may have just pulled off entirely. So AJ Wuhan is off the track. No, he's back, and well, I have to say this is incredibly unfortunate. Prime goes through to the race lead, but he can afford to do this with all these guys scrapping in behind AJ Wuhan. This is really unfortunate because, dare I say it, no one knows where his car is.
Yeah, it's that ghost inside of Slash once again. I think it looks like it jumps to AI every now and then. Bit weird to see, but let's hope he can still race on and get a decent result, because he is still on for a P2, remember. So let's see if he can get this.
Yeah, he sits in behind TDG Slash. Slash looked the favourite for the win for so long. Now that race win looks firmly in QRT Timon's hands at this stage. He is looking for his second win of the season and what would without doubt be the championship lead. Jaco, I was going to say he's moved through on AJ Wuhan. He is right behind him though, looking towards that inside into Brooklands. He will want desperately to put the Ferrari behind him, and I think he has just about managed to do that. So he does get through on AJ Wuhan. I think I can't confirm that certainly, but he is into 4th place on track for now. So this is how things stand at the moment. Prime from Timon then. That is the scrap up at the front, but Timon has no interest in this. AJ Wuhan, as you mentioned, still on for P2. Gary, who is actually being held back a little bit, may get the podium. It's hard to say at this stage. I think he will. Let's see the gaps. Yeah, he is at the moment. Very close to Slash, so that is going to be one to look out for in terms of the overall classifications. Timon face back to Prime, goes outside, and I think that may well be the nail in the coffin. Barring any penalties, we'll see how that is going to unfold further down the field. Screen, I mentioned he was looking like the more promising in the end of those, as you can see actually Nathan pulling over to the side of the medium starters. Doesn't look like he's going to beat Jaco, but he has in the end actually had a very solid result. But yeah, penalties for some of the guys that look to be in contention for this have set them back. It is the final lap now, and Prime is still searching on the back of Timon. Could this be thrown up in the air very early on? Timon, you'd imagine. Prime's got 8 seconds of penalties. He won't want to take too many risks. Prime is not going to hold back in the slightest, so let's see what happens then. On the run down towards Brooklands, doesn't look like there's any sort of moves in prospect then. Prime searches inside. Timon holds on to the race lead at the moment then. So he's holding on nicely then. You'd imagine Prime is going to try and sneak it heading into Stowe. In the grand scheme of things, though, it won't matter to Time, and it might try and help Prime in terms of guys further down the field. We'll see how it all filters out. There's a lot of penalties to digest near the front of the field especially, and a lot of guys further back could be on for gaining quite a lot there. Gary screaming Zaunama might be a bit too far back. Gary could come all the way up from P8, so let's see how things are going to shake up then. Jekyll is looking to try and grab that place from Slash, and he's trying to get himself up onto the podium late. He's up behind him now. Prime is attacking Diamond now. Get to the inside of Stone. This is risky. He goes on the inside and Diamond straight away backs out. Slash holds off Jekyll, looking to try and lock down that podium, but we will see. He looks outside of Time, and Jekyll is not quite close enough. There's positions changing further down the field. Prime will cross the line first on the road, but Kyorti Time and under pressure pulls through AJ Wuhan second. Slash barely holds on to third from Gary. Gary, I think, will be pleased with fourth, but my oh my, they all crumbled around him in some respect that time, and all the contenders seemed to falter near the end of the race. But this man held firm all the way through. Kyorti Timon, your race winner for Silverstone. AJ Wuhan and Slash as your podium then. Gary and Jekyll top 5, Commentalist 6, Zaunama, again a typically Zaunama race to 7. Scream, Prime, Tibos, Kriko, Funky Chicken, that is your points finishers for the race. We'll wait for Boompier. Nolan has crossed the line, Tin Can has crossed the line, and we're just waiting for Ferg and Larkin. I imagine going for fast lap attempt, so let's see. Ferg crosses the line, is some way off that. Does crash just coming over the line, does actually make it to the checkered flag thankfully for him. XL Larkin, he looks to be going for a fastest lap. Let's see, he's used quite a bit of battery. He used quite a bit of pace on those tires. Let's see what he can do then. Larkin, not the race that he would have wanted. Does he grab a consolation fastest lap? I think he may well have done. So that is going to be it then for the British Grand Prix. And, well, the first repeat winner since Rudy, who of course has been promoted. Kyorti Thailand continuing to find confidence in this division. Gets his second win of the season, and with that is going to be the championship lead with the Alfa Romeo driver as well.
Yeah, of course he's going to gain on Gary and Commentalist significantly. Great drive from the Alfa Romeo driver here, and yeah, he's just stayed out of trouble. He's made the smart decisions and played the race perfectly.
Yes, certainly. Again, he wasn't head and shoulders above the rest. Again, Slash was the fastest driver tonight, you have to say, but we saw that one crucial mistake heading through Beckett's, and that was it. That set him back. He does hold on for a podium, but only just. Gary was certainly looking at trying to snatch that away. Timon, as I mentioned, the race winner, AJ Wuhan and Slash. Hopefully we can get these guys in for podium interviews. Quite a lot to digest from that lot. But yeah, that is going to be it for round 6 of the season. Timon, as I mentioned, should work his way into the championship lead. It's good points for Gary and Commentalist. Those guys will still remain in the hunt. But as we've seen so many times, there'll be new contenders. Slash gets a good haul of points. He had a decent enough start to the season. So as things continue to evolve, that championship picture changes. But I think we can say Timon is taking that championship lead. Gary and Commentalist, though, good points. Those three, I think, may well just have a bit of a break on the rest of the field.
Definitely does look like that. I'm just trying to get these guys to go in for interviews, obviously. Yeah, Timon, absolutely great drive, and we'll definitely be happy with that one.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So hopefully we can hear from all these guys in the box. It's good fortunes for all those guys. Of course, Timon has had a good start to the season, but that is going to take it to new levels. AJ Wuhan literally wasn't on the board before this race. He's going to take a nice jump up in the standings. Of course, we did see some Wi-Fi issues from him, but ultimately he does manage to hold on to position 2 in the end, and also a P3 there for Slash. Probably would have wanted more, but in the end he does have to settle for third. Still good points for him. Well, looks like we can get interviews kicked off though. We have a race winner in the box with us, Mr. Kyorti Timon. We'll hopefully get all these guys in for interviews, hear from all of them as they get themselves into the party. But Timon, just a quick question for you. How tense was that race?
not really. I was vibing most of the race. I mean, everyone crashed around me and get penalties. I haven't done anything. It doesn't feel like a win. I was chilling the whole race, sitting into it. I was saving ERS to go for a move because I definitely had to do something. And then on my screen, Slash just went wide, coming in to make it Beckett. So I just went around him and I just heard Larkin say behind me, I've got damage. He drove back on. So I don't have a clue what happened. So he dropped away. I overtook AJ a few laps later with DRS, expecting to battle, and then Prime overtook him, which was amazing. He has 8 seconds of penalties, and he's the most aggressive fucker on the track. I've got no clue why, but thank you very much. Which, yeah, I mean, it pretty much gave me the win after it. He overtook me very aggressively as well in the final corner. On the final lap, we nearly crashed, but I anticipated him to go for the move, but we nearly touched fucking after Hanger Straight. It was a bit crazy, but it doesn't feel like a race win.
Well, he was hard charging near the end, that's for sure. Yeah, the world seemed to be burning around you throughout that race, and you just held your own, essentially. Looking like maybe before the race, just were your expectations high? Did you think that a race win could have been done tonight? Of course, this is your second of the season now.
Starting in with practice, I wasn't thinking so, and then I switched setups, which was feeling pretty good. I saw Slash doing the practice sessions, 0.0s, which he actually did as well in the session, so I knew he had pace, and I didn't really know about anyone else, but I felt like if I just had solid pace, and because here it's just getting lucky and not fucking up pretty much, and it's don't get done by the undercuts, which I nearly got. So I knew in the beginning everything can happen at Silverstone, and I mean all the pieces fell together, and I'm happy with it in the end. Thinking if I was gonna win, nah. I was hoping for some good points, which I've got, so I'm happy.
Well, I think it's going to be good points for the championship lead for you at the end of this race. Just looking towards our next race at Jeddah, which I don't think you can get a much more different track from Silverstone. So what are your thoughts here? Of course, very different skill set required to be quick there and, of course, maintain your car over the course of the race. Just going towards the 7th round of the season, what are your thoughts?
So I've always been always saying I'm slow at certain tracks and people don't believe me anymore. I've genuinely not done more than 5 laps at Jeddah. When it came out, I did 5 laps, I rage quit, and I haven't touched the track since. So I think it will be lovely doing a lot of practice there all week. I've got no clue. I don't think it's gonna go well. It's a wheel track, I think, from how it looks. But who knows? It's LOED2, everything can happen.
That is for sure. Just heading over towards Mr. QVR Verstappen. You got any questions for our race winner?
I do actually. Well, first of all, congratulations on the win, Simon. And given your previous statement, I reckon you're going to walk the grid by about 5 seconds next week. Adding to that, you mentioned the undercuts. Were you worried that you were going to be dropped completely from Slash after he got a 1.2, 1.3 second gap?
His pace was really good. I knew that we had 80 behind, so I knew he was going to catch up, but I firstly tried doing so myself, which I did. The undercut was really strong. I actually wanted to keep going for me and Larkin, because we had fairly good pace, and I think if we kept going for 3 laps, we might have even been able to do something else special. But when he came out, the gap was a lot bigger, so I knew Slash had better pace. He had the whole race as well. AJ and Slash were a lot quicker. They deserved to win more. But I was worried a bit, and I just burnt all my ERS I got in it, and then AJ overtook me because I had no ERS. But it's scary how strong the undercut is. I had it in Austria, which I got lucky on the safety car. And I've had it again now, so I might have to undercut myself the next race.
Well, thanks very much, mate. Congrats on the win. You can go enjoy yourself after that one. So I guess now, yeah, no worries. Heading now to our second place finisher for the British Grand Prix. Just hearing from you now, Mr. AJ Wuhan, of course. It's not been the easiest start to the season for you, but just how good does it feel to get off the board?
It's nice. It's rare to get points in LOE these days, I suppose, for me. So it's nice to have a bit of pace on the track for once as well. And congrats to Timon and congrats to Slash for some good pace as well. Had some good battles on the track, and I appreciate all the comments that Timon said, but I don't think my pace is quite up there. I think easily it could have been anyone's race, and and I'd also like to apologise for my sort of internet connection on the last few laps. Kind of don't know what happened there, but just cost me a bit of time as well. Hopefully it didn't cause anyone any issues. Yeah.
I don't think it had much of an impact, so I don't think you have to worry much about that. Hopefully, of course, it is a little bit better for the next races after that. Just talking through what went on tonight, just what was your reactions throughout the race? Because it was all running fine, you were in the typical Silverstone DRS train, but near the end, it seemed like the world was burning around you and Timon.
Yeah, at the start, my sort of thoughts were, I'll just try and keep hold of my position because I had a race around Silverstone on Thursday where it was sort of, I thought I had good pace, and I think I tried to replicate that today without spinning, because it's rare that I sort of have two decent races. So I just sort of thought at the start, just try and keep position, take each battle as they came, and once I came out the pits and I was right behind Timon, I thought, this is a good chance to sort of stay on the podium and maybe even get the win if I sort of keep training behind them. Unfortunately, the win didn't happen, but I think podium is a good result to get from this. So really happy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And the same question that I asked to Timon, of course, you're off the board now in terms of the championship. Jeddah next up. What do you make of that track? How do you rate your chances? And judging by the laugh, I think I know what's coming.
Maybe. I mean, I think I've had one race there in ISRO a few months ago. My quality pace was good, but my race pace was tragic. Pretty confident on the track in terms of TT, but I've never really actually had much race practice, so I suppose we'll wait and see. Quality's not as important there as it is in other tracks, so we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. I'll hand it back over to you, Verstappen. You got any questions for our second place finisher tonight?
Well, obviously, congratulations on the second place. How are you rating your chances in the championship? Are you looking to get any sort of position in the championship at the end of the season?
I think I'll get a few more races under my belt, a few more points finishes before I sort of start thinking of where to finish up, because a bit of a rough start, missed a couple of races, and just sort of see how the next few tracks go. But I think generally still got some better tracks still to come, so we'll see how they go. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, mate. Congrats on that second place finish tonight. And I guess, last of all, we will hear from our third place finisher, Mr. TTG Slash. Well, Slash, of course, you looked like the man all the way throughout the night. Just talk us through what happened near the end of that race, because it seemed like one mistake just offset it near the end.
Yeah, I made a mistake around, I think, the beginning of Maggot to Bigot, and initially I ran off track, gave Feynman the position, and then when I rejoined, there was, I think, Ariel Ferg and Larky were behind me, and then Ferg, of course, I rejoined the track, so he had any other opportunity to make a move, and then fortunately he hit the side part of my car, and then fortunately Larky was behind, so he got damaged. And yeah, it's a shame because I feel like the win was really possible because I was saving my EOS, just hold it back because I knew in the final lap I could just deploy it and then it's fortunate.
How though, of course, it didn't maybe yield the result that you were after, but it's still good points. And we've seen this throughout the entire season now. Your pace does seem to be very, very strong here. How much encouragement does that take, really, knowing that I'd say that on balance you were probably the fastest man tonight, so how much does that give you going forward?
It's good momentum because heading to this weekend I thought I was going to be around top 5, top 10 with the pace I had because I thought other people would be much more quicker, so it was quite a surprise when heading to when I was doing practice with Feynman and others that the pace was really good. So hopefully in the next few races it can keep up, because after this, the next 2 races are good tracks for me, and then afterwards it's like a bit of meh tracks.
Well, like if you were to look forward through the calendar beyond those 2 races, are there any tracks that you'd say stand out as being particularly strong for you?
Most likely China and Brazil. I haven't seen like all the rest of the calendars, but I think those 2 tracks are like similar to how my pace in Portugal was. So hopefully I can do well on those 2 tracks.
Well, we could be seeing you in this box a lot more often then throughout this season. Yet again, I'll hand it back over to you, Verstappen. Do you have any questions for our 3rd place finisher tonight?
Congratulations on the podium. Must be good to actually. Obviously, after Portugal, you won the race there, but other than that, we've not really seen you actually translate the pace from quali to the race. It must be good to have that for once now.
Yeah, I knew like Imola and Monaco were like tracks where I knew I was gonna not do well, like heading into the beginning of the season, and then France was like an unfortunate incident with Funkenchicken, so. And then, yeah, Austria had issues with my own, so hopefully I can just keep on being consistent and try to get more points more often. Because I think that's the main aim for like the championship.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Of course, I think the championship is still very much up in the air, so we'll see how that is going to evolve. 6 races down in the Season 7 Division 2 Championship for League of Europe. So let's see how that's going to unfold down the line. I think, though, for tonight, that's going to be pretty much it. I guess I'll hand it back over to you, Verstappen. What are your final thoughts from tonight?
Exhilarating race that was at Silverstone, providing a lot of action, a lot of close action as well. Just want to mention that battle between Gary and Carmenzalis was a really great one to watch. And other than that, there were a few others as well throughout the race. And yeah, really enjoyed that one.
I think we mentioned that battle between Gary and Carmenzalis pretty much every week. It just seems to always come through. But I think then for tonight, that is going to be pretty much it. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Make sure to check out, of course, League of Europe throughout the week. I think we've got Endure next week. On Wednesday, we have the PC League on Friday, and of course we also F2 on Tuesday. Who can forget that? Of course, on Saturday you have all 5 F1 divisions on the PS4. We'll see how that's going to unfold next time out in Jeddah. But I guess that is going to be it for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. So with pretty much everything said and done from myself and Verstappen and all the podium men here, it is goodbye for now, and until next time, we'll see you later.